Welcome you all to MergeStat 2022. I'm Dr. Imali Jayamanne, a senior lecturer from Department of Statistics, University of Colombo. Let me discuss an important concept related to introduction to surveys. Let's outline what we are going to do in this video. First, I will discuss what is a survey, then we'll discuss how we can plan a survey, and finally how we can design a good questionnaire. These are few news items I have extracted which are related to school studies, and you might be wondering by reading this how the fuel crisis, the energy crisis and power cuts have affected school students. After seeing the news items, some questions come up to my mind. What percentage of A-level students have completed their syllabus on time due to school holidays? Are school students prefer online learning? How power outage in country affect the number of hours students study per day? So these are few questions that you might also have come up with. So let's see how we can answer these questions. By conducting surveys, we can answer the above questions that we have already mentioned. So what is survey? Survey is gathering information from individuals using a questionnaire. Survey can reach large number of respondents, and also we can generate standardized and quantifiable data and offer confidentiality and also anonymity. So using a survey by collecting data, we can find a quantifiable answers for above questions that we have already implied. It is important to learn some definitions related to surveys. Population and sample. Population is the entire group of individuals that we like to get the information. Sample is the subpart of the population that we actually examined. So you have seen that if we are interested to find out the online whether the school students are happy about online learning, population is the all school students who are undergo in online learning, and sample is a part of school students that we have examined. So if we were able to get information from all the individuals that we are like to get the information, that survey we give a special name called census. And if we only take few individuals that from the out of interest groups and studied them, then we call it is a survey. It is very important that you identify your target population first. So if you are going to do a survey, the target population is the complete collection of observation that we want to study. As an example, let's say we are interested about the A-level students, how they have completed their syllabus on time. So the target population might be all A-level students in Sri Lanka. But due to difficulties, we might be end up with small scale population, which is all A-level students in Western Province in 2022. So like such, if we get a target population, it should be a clear cut, and then it should reflect all the information that we want to study. So first of all, you need to think of the target population. So it can be a case study of the population that you have already selected at the first, but the target population is what we are taking care of. So when you are considering about the target population, the observational unit is the object or the individual on which we are getting the information. So in this example, we are taking A-level students as the individual. So the variable of study is also very important definition that we need to learn. So the characteristic of individual that we are going to take the measurement is called the variables. So there can be main variables and important other variables as well. So variables, you might have a main variable as an example, if you are interested about online learning, the satisfaction level of online learning can be a variable that you are interested. So when you are considering about the satisfaction level, it can be changed with the gender. Sometimes females might be interested than the in online learning than the male students. Sometimes the grade is also affected for satisfaction level, which is maybe the A level and O level students might prefer online learning than primary students. And not only that, sometimes the subject also a matter. Sometimes the history, social studies, like such subject you might be interested to learn by online, but not mathematics. So like such, there are a few variables that might be interested that you want to figure out. The satisfaction is changed due to these facts. So all the variables which are important for your survey should be identified first. So the next important concept that you need to learn is the sampling frame. Sampling frame is the list of all the individuals that you are interested to take in your target population. So it consists of the list of observations that means the name. If you are interested about the online learning of a particular students, let's say uh, all A-level students, you are going to measure the online learning, how satisfied they are. So you can choose a one school. Let's say you have chosen a one school, name school A. So if you can come up with all A-level students in this school A, their names and how they can contact, like telephone number or maybe home address or maybe email address, the important information that they can be contact, which is called the sampling frame. So this list is for your target population. So if you have this sampling frame, you can choose or select a set of individuals for your sample. So we have covered what is survey in the first few slides. So now let's learn how we can plan a survey. So you know that survey usually originate when an individual or an institute confronted with an information need. So as we discussed in the first few slides, you know that we have come up with set of questions that come up to our mind after reading the news items. So when you come up with such ideas, we want to figure out and make an answer to these questions. We need to start whether we need to plan a survey or conduct a survey to answer these questions. So first what we need to do when you are planning a survey is, once you have got an idea, let's say we want to figure it out whether the school student prefer online learning or what their satisfaction level is. So in order to find out that, what you can do first is you need to first check whether what is the already available information. Apart from the news items that you have seen, whether any studies have been conducted, and you can search for different sources that has been done. So you need to research all the available information and check whether the similar surveys that has been done before. So if you have found that, you need to refer all the materials in that particular survey. So you can go to Census Department, the national organization that capture all the data that is needed to answer which is related to Sri Lankan population. And central bank or maybe government authorities or UN data might be having, which the study has been conducted earlier as well. So if you come across with such studies, you need to study all the materials that you have discussed. After studying this material, then you need to think of whether, if a similar survey has been done, can we take that answer as our consideration and stop from that. So let's say that it's not enough because it is a study which is done in a different country. So we want to figure out how online learning is in Sri Lanka school students. So if that's the case, or maybe we have found out how undergraduates, which is related to online learning for undergraduates. So like such, if we have come across with different target population other than the what we have interested, then we need to conduct a survey. So we can, after reviewing the materials that we have come across, you need to first decide whether you are going to conduct a survey for your study or not. So then if you have find out that you are going to conduct a survey, then you need to go for the next step. So the important step that you need to come first is you need to outline the objectives that you are going to investigate. So when you are layouting your objectives, you want to know what actually you want to figure out and how we are going to use this information. So like such, you need to answer who is going to conduct it and when we are going to conduct it, why it's important to conduct it. All these questions should be answered through these surveys. So what you need to do is you need to come across with main goal and then set of objective which you are trying to achieve through these objectives, the main goal. So when you're setting your objectives, you need to be make sure that each objective should follow the SMART rule, which is it should be specific and measurable and also achievable within the time frame and relevant and also time bounded. So let's discuss through an example how you can choose survey objects in a well-designed manner. So this is a good objective which has the SMART, which tally with the SMART rule. So what percent of 2012 L12 students have completed the syllabus in July 2020? So it's specific. It determines what's the target population that we are going to do, and we are measuring what's the percentage of students that are completed their syllabus, and it's achievable because it's in current year, and it's relevant to the main goal that you are going to study, which is related to how the power outage and school holidays are affecting to school A-level students. That's the main that is our main goal, and it's time bounded because we are going to measure in July 2022 what's the percentage. So like such, when you have a main goal that you are going to achieve in this main study, then to achieve this goal, you need to come up with set of objectives which follow SMART rule. So like such, you can come across with not only one objectives, maybe one or two, several objectives that you are going to measure. So in addition to this percentage, you can also see how this percentage of syllabus covered is vary across different variable. What are the factors associated with this completion of the syllabus? Sometimes might be the A-level stream and the area that the students live and the facilities you have might be affected. And so like such, you need to come across with several objectives that are tally with your main goal. So once you have identified your objective, the next step is to define your population of interest or the target population, because you need to come up with, are you going to solve this problem or goal to all Sri Lankan students, A-level students, or maybe you can shorten that and narrow down your target population, which you can achieve very easily due to time limit, cost and all. So as a case study first. Okay. So like such, you need to define or find out your target population first that you are going to achieve. And then once you identify your target population, you need to come up with whether you are going to do a census or a survey. So if you are going to do a survey, that means you are going to take a part of your population, target population. So that means you are taking a sample. So if you are taking a sample, what's the sampling method how you are going to choose individuals, and what's the sample size you are going to take. So these are a matter. So you need to figure out these things that first, so that you are going to obtain the data. So when you are deciding all these two, the sampling method and sample design, you need to learn how you can calculate the sample size for different sampling method and all first. So let's discuss this sampling process or the sampling method in detail after completing how we can plan a survey. So when you decide on the survey, uh, how we can do a sample. So the next important fact that you are going to do is how we are going to collect the data, which we call the mode of data collection. So the mode of data collection can be using a mail survey, through a telephone interviewing, face-to-face interviewing, or maybe through a web survey. So like such, when you have the desired information that you are going to take, you need to first think of what the mechanism that you are going to do. Are you going to mail them and then send a questionnaire through the post, and once they received it, they need to like send the questionnaire back to you. And if you have telephone numbers, what you can do is you can call them and ask the questionnaire, a set of questions you have prepared, and get filled up while talking with them. Or maybe you can go and meet them face to face and ask the questions you have in your mind, and then get the answer directly. Or what you can do is you can conduct a web survey through web portal, maybe through social media or whatever the mechanism. Or maybe you can send an email if you have email list. So, or maybe WhatsApp groups that you have created that from the list that you have. You can email different web site which consists of the questionnaire, and then you can get the desired information for. So the mode of data collection, actually, when you're deciding what's the mechanism you need to follow, you need to first think of what's the information we have for your target population. Do you know the telephone number? Do you know their address? Do you know their email address? Like such, you need to come up with what's the sampling frame we have. How can we contact them? So if you have several ways that contact them, like if you have only one way, which is telephone survey, you need to like go for telephone survey if you have only telephone number. But let's say you have all the telephone numbers, home address, email address, and all. You need to come up with a mechanism to select first to go forward in your planning a survey. So it depends on your requirement. Let's say you want to get a quick answer. The best way that you can deal with is you can telephone them and get the idea. And but if it's not a problem, the time is not a problem, and the cost is the matter, the best way that you can deal with the email survey or maybe a mail survey. Uh, but the if the cost is not a matter and you want to have a long set of questions that you need to get an answer, then you can meet them and get the answer. So like such, uh, there are different mechanisms that you need to select, but if you have all options, you need to decide on the best mode of data collection first, which depending on your requirement, how you are going to collect the data. So when you're when you're selecting the mode of the survey, once you have decided on that, it's basically based on the sampling frame. So 7 and 8, the steps you need to do parallelly, because if you have come up with the mechanism mode of data collection, you can if you have selected telephone number, so you need to get the sampling frame as the name of the person or and the telephone number. So like such, the sampling frame is the list of individuals that we have for our target population. Then the next step is to plan a questionnaire. So when you are planning the questionnaire, you need to think of how we are going to analyze it, because finally you are going to make the conclusion based on your data analysis. So if you know what you are going to do for the data to answer that, then you can work backward and come up with what are the questions that we need to come up with. So when you are developing the questionnaire, first you need to think of the data analysis, and based on that we can figure out what are the variables that are interested, and then what we can do is we can come up with the questionnaire. So the questionnaire is actually the set of questions that we are going to investigate to use to gather information. So after you develop your questionnaire, in order to measure this quality of the survey, you need to follow these steps as well. So you need to first pre-test your questionnaire with your colleges, your selected responses, and then also you need to conduct a pilot survey as well. Pilot study or pilot survey is a dress rehearsal of your original survey. So if you are going to do a telephone survey, you need to select few randomly few respondents or few individuals of your uh, population, and then you need to contact them and ask their feedback on the questionnaire. So you can first do the survey as you are targeting, and then get a review of the questions that you have prepared, so that you can modify if the questions are not clear to them. Then you can modify in the pre-testing and pilot part. So once you have done the pilot survey, your questionnaire, you can finalize it. So once you finalize your questionnaire, the next step is you need to prepare instruction manual if you are doing a telephone survey or face-to-face interview, because if you have a large number of individuals that you are going to take as your sample, then you need to hire some people to interview the respondents or the individuals. So then you need to give the instruction what you are going to achieve. So if it's in for this case, you might not need not to prepare instruction manuals, because the group of the students you can contact and get the things done. So the preparing instruction manual is not a big deal for you guys. And the next thing is you can start your original data collection process. So you can send the questionnaires via the selected mode of data collection for the individuals that you have selected. So you have know that the sample size you are going to achieve. Now you have selected the respondents that you are going to send. Then you need to send the way that you have selected as your mode of data collection. So if you have selected email survey, you can email them with a nice covering letter and then send them, and then they can fill them and send you back. So like such, the data collection period, it might take time if you once to get the information you are required to. So if you are doing it for like a different mechanism, you need to prepare budget and time schedule as well. So but in this particular competition, it's not a matter, I guess. Okay, so far we have discussed the important concept related to survey and how we can plan a survey well. So when you are planning a survey, the most important thing is how we select the sample. Out of the target population list, we have come up with how we can select the sample. So the sample can be selected using a sampling technique. Once you select the sampling technique, the sampling technique is actually through you can collect it using a random sampling mechanism or non-random sampling mechanism. So the main purpose of learning this survey is to conduct the survey through a random sampling mechanism. So if you have come up with the sampling frame, you can easily do a random sampling. But if you want to get a quick answer and you are not worried about the findings of the population, you just need to get a quick answer, and to get a initial solution you might be conducting non-random mechanism, but always advise you to follow a random sampling mechanism. So when you do random sampling mechanism, there are four main mechanisms that you can choose a sample. Those are simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. So I'm not going to teach you about these non-random sampling mechanism, but if you are interested, you can read them by Googling it. So as we discuss, what is probabilistic sampling? So you know the list of the individuals in your target population. So if you give everybody a chance to be part of the sample, we call it is a probabilistic sample. So in order to do that, we must know all possible individuals that we can take the information for. So if we can give chance for everybody, we can come up with a random sampling or the probabilistic sampling method. So as I discussed, there are four ways that we can come across. Let's discuss simple random sampling first. So before learning about this technique, first we'll discuss a example how we can come up with the sampling mechanism. Let's say we have 30 individuals in our population and we want to select 10 out of it. So that's the mechanism usually. So we know the population size and we have come up with the sample size, and how we are going to select these is the mechanism we learning in this part. So when you are dealing with that, the first case that we can think of is the simple random sampling. So in there, what we are doing is we are giving everybody in the population the same chance. So in that case, if you are choosing sample size as simple n, we know every sample out of it. Then what's the mechanism that we are going to do is we have 30 individuals. We want to select 10 individuals. So what we do is first we number each observation or each individual from 1 to 30. So if we have capital N number of as your population size, you need to start from 1 to capital N. If N is 1000, so you need to number it from 1 to 1000. So after you number each, what you can do is the simplest mechanism that you can do is you can do a generate 10 numbers between 1 to 30. So there are Excel functions that if you are familiar with it, you can write equal random from 1 to 30 and then come up with the numbers that you can choose. Otherwise, what you can do is you can write numbers in a piece of paper from 1 to 30, and then you can put those numbers into a hat, and then you can shake it well and select randomly the 10 numbers without replacement. That means you can first take a number, and then if you want to get unique individuals, what you can do is you can keep it aside and take another number. So like such you can take 10 numbers. So those are the individuals that has been selected for your sample. So in this case, if we have randomly chosen 10 numbers are these. So these are the selected individuals if you follow the simple random mechanism, the 10 individuals. So you can easily do this if you have a limited number of sample size and the population size. So if this the hat method doesn't work your way, so what you can do is you can do you can use the software which is Excel and choose random sample from the set of numbers. So what you can do is you can use the random function to select that. So that is the simplest mechanism, which is simple random sample. So let's learn what are the other types as well. So there are other mechanism called stratified random sampling. So in the stratified random sampling, what we do is we divide our population into groups. So as an example, let's say uh, our target population is all A-level students, all 2022 A-level students. So what we can do is, let's say we have identified how the satisfaction is differ across different uh, gender. So we can uh, make into groups with the use of the gender variable. So if you consider gender variable as the variable that are going to group, so then you can divide the population into two groups, male and female. So like such, you need to come across with the grouping variable called strata, and in the strata what you are going to do is you divide your population into groups, and so here you have a population, you divide into groups, so you can divide into groups. This is male and this is female. So what you can do is, for male group you select a random sample, simple random sample, and for female also you are getting another sample. So what we are doing in this case is, if we want to make sure that the male and female are represented well in your sample, you need to make sure that what you can do is you can come across with this stratified random sampling. So when you are deciding on the grouping variable, usually you have a main interested variable, which is in this case the let's say the study completed in the A level. So it's depending, let's say it's depending on the A level stream. So if you think that the A level stream is uh, is changing depending on the A level stream, the completed syllabus, the percentage of complete in the syllabus is also changing. What you can do is you can select that particular variable as the strata. So anyway, when you are dividing the population into groups, you are interested to know within that particular groups how their main variable is also changing. So that's how you choose your strata. So basically in the stratified sampling, after you grouping, you think those as separate population and take sample out of it. Once you take sample from each stratum, you can combine the final sample by combining the two. If you have taken male sample from male and female first, then you can combine the finally selected samples as a final sample. So you need to know this grouping variable first when you are doing, if you are going to do a stratified random sampling. That means, as an example, when you are listing the sampling frame, you need to first know, let's say you have decided male and female. So in your list for each individual, you need to figure it out whether that student is a male and female first. Then what you can do is you can divide the target population into groups, and then you can create different lists and then come across with the sample. So as an example, in the example that we have discussed, so we have 30 our population. Let's say we are interested to find out the survey about English literacy, and we know that English literacy is changed across the ethnicity. So this red variable is Sinhala, blue is Tamil, and black is Mo. So you can identify for each person in your population what's their ethnicity is. So once you identify, you can the full list you can group into three lists. So if you have three groups, so then what you can do is so here we have actually equal number of people, but in almost all the cases we don't have equal number of individuals in each groups. So what we can do is we can uh, make into stratas and then take each from uh, each uh, individuals from different groups. So as an example here, since we have equal number of groups, what we can do is we can do proportionately. So according to the population size, we can come across with what's the sample that we are going to do. Since we have equal number, if we want to take 10, what's the best way is we can select 4 from each and come up with 12 individuals. So getting more than what we desired is not a matter. So what we can do is we can number these groups individually from 1 to 10 and then take random numbers, 4 random numbers differently. So then these are the selected individuals if we have conduct stratified random sampling. So the next mechanism that we need to do is the systematic random sampling. So in here what is we are actually doing is we are giving actually a combination of we are selecting kth individual as our sample. So every fifth individual, every 10th individual, like such we are selecting individual in the same position. So when we are doing that, first we need to make sure what's the starting point. So after deciding on the starting point, we can select the next point. Let's say we have, let's discuss that using the example. Okay, so let's say we have a population size 30 in our example. So we have population size 30 and we are going to take 10 individuals. So what we can do is we can divide n by simple n, which is 3, and k is the 3. So we are taking every third individual for our sample. So when you are deciding that, what we can do is from 1 to 3 individuals, we can randomly take an individual. So from first 3 individuals, we take a random person. If we have selected the second person, so the first person that we have selected is second. So after that we are selecting every third person. That means 2 plus 3 is fifth. 5 plus 3 is 8. So like such we are selecting kth individual. And here actually basically we are doing this if we have specifically if we don't have a sampling frame. Because let's say if we are going to do in a class we don't have a target population list. So what we do is we are set in a well designed manner. So we know how many people are in there in our class. Let's say we have 30 and we are going to do 10. So we can the number that you are going to do is third person. So what you can do is you can easily select the 10th individual using the systematic random sampling mechanism. So in here, so we have a list actually. We don't have a list, but we can number the individuals from 1 to 30. So as such, we have to start from the third. Every third person is selected. So for every third person selected, first we need to identify our selection point. So the randomly chosen second point. So every third person we are selecting. So 8 plus 3, 11, plus 3, 14. So like such, we are selecting the 10th individual. So like such, we can come up with finally our sample size through systematic random sampling. So this is not actually a frequent method. If you don't have a sampling frame, sampling frame, you can use this to finally get the sample very easily if there's a mechanism that you can come up with. So the next important concept is random sampling. So in the random sampling mechanism, we are divided the population into groups. Earlier also we have grouped them into stratas, but now we are grouping them into clusters. So in the clusters, which usually is a naturally occurring. So maybe depending on different schools, maybe districts, school types, like such, a naturally occurring mechanism we are going to divide into different things. So school districts, school types, like such, we can make into groups. So the difference between the stratified and cluster is usually when you are selecting individuals, here what we are doing is we, we, we are grouping them thinking that each school district represent same type of individual. So what we try to do is rather than going in every district, we select few districts, we randomly select few clusters and take all the individuals as our final sample. So we can go for multi-stage as well, but basically let's only discuss one stage clustering. So in the random cluster sampling, when we discuss this thing that we have discussed earlier, we can group them according to, let's say, the Western province data are here, and we can divide them into like different districts, the Kalutara, Colombo and Gampaha. So for every individual, we can identify their natural occurring districts, and then we know that within a district every characteristics are present. So what we do is rather than selecting individual from each district, we select only one district, which is very convenient. It's not very costly as well. So we know that by considering only one district, we can get a representative sample. So what you do is, these are the three clusters. So we randomly choose cluster, not the individuals. Okay. So we have randomly chosen second cluster as our random sampling. So that's the main difference in the cluster sampling. So we have learned 4 mechanisms to choose the sample. So you need to first identify what's the best procedure that you need to follow. The simplest way is for to conduct the simple random sampling. If you are doing a mail survey or email survey, maybe simple random sample might be best, because you can, if you know the individuals, you can get a sample easily. But if you want to make sure that every different characteristic is present, the best way is to do a stratified random sampling. So like such, you can come up with a good idea about your sampling mechanism. Okay, let's say we want to estimate amount of time A-level students spend on study. So if you are going to do a survey, we need to do a sampling mechanism. We want to choose the best sampling mechanism. So if we do a simple random sampling, what we can do is we can construct all A-level students list, and we can select the sample size and take a random sample. And if you are doing stratified random sampling, what we can do is we can group these A-level students according to A-level stream, and then from each A-level streams we can take a random sample. Then all A-level streams are represented really well. And if you are doing a cluster sample, what you can do is you need to do a naturally occurring group. So what you can do is you can consider about maybe school type or school districts. So you can select random sample of school types. You have a type 1, type 2, like such. So you can randomly choose one different types and then select all the uh, students from all the selected school types. And finally, how if you are doing systematic sampling, so you can take random, if after constructing the list, you can take every 10th individual like such, every 20th, every 5th. So like such, you can come up with a mechanism to select the individual. After you decide on your sampling scheme, the next step is you need to know the sample size. So it's very important that you decide your sample size. So it's depending on your interest variable. Let's say your interest variable is a quantitative variable, as an example, number of hours you spend on studies. So then this is the equation that you are going to use. N is the sample size, capital N is your population size, sigma is the standard deviation of the interested variable, and so usually sigma is unknown. You can take it from a similar study, or maybe you can use a guess. And the next is the E. E is actually the margin of error that making, because you know that if you take a sample, you are making an error rather than taking a population. So the error, you can decide first what's the error that you are going to tolerate. So usually 1% to 5% can be give. The general procedure is to give 3%. So you can assign 0.03 there. Okay. And if your interested variable is a qualitative variable, let's say it's a satisfaction level for online learning. So then you have satisfy, not satisfy. So you have qualitative variable. So you can use this equation to get your sample size. So when you are getting this sample size, you only need to substitute the value for population size and the margin of error. Okay. So that's the maximum sample size you need to know. So these are the two formulas that you can use for your study as well. Okay, we have discussed a lot of things now. We know how we can plan the survey well. When you're planning the survey, the designing the well questionnaire is an important step. So let's discuss in detail how we can plan a survey questionnaire well. So you know that questionnaire is actually a set of questions that you ask in advance of the survey to collect information. So you need to prepare the questionnaire first before starting the data collection process. So when you're designing the questionnaire, you need to start with the objective, and you need to decide on what type of questions you are going to achieve. Like such, there are few things that you need to know first before designing a questionnaire. So in the questionnaire design process, these are the steps that you are going to achieve. First, you need to first draft your purpose and get to know your topic, and you need to clearly mention your objective. So once you finalize these objectives, then you need to finalize your mode of data collection, because depending on your mode of data collection, the questionnaire designing is different. Then the third is how you need to develop the analysis plan. So if you are after conducting the data, how you are going to analyze it. So you need to list down the variables, and there are steps involved in it. And then after knowing all these three, you can prepare the draft questionnaire, and then you can test it and do a pilot survey as well, and revise the questionnaire, and then you can assess the reliability and validity of the questionnaire as well. So you need to follow this sequentially in order to achieve design a well questionnaire. So I have already discussed how you can come up with a good set of goal and objectives. So you need to first decide on what is your main purpose, and what's your objective, and what's your target population, and why you are getting this information, and actually what is you are going to actually find out. So let's discuss the question developing process through an example. So let's say you are interested to introduce a new chocolate product to get more profit. So let's say you are uh, the chocolate developing company, and you are going to introduce a new chocolate which will ultimately end up with your good profit. So that's your purpose in your mind. So your target population might be all people who buy chocolates. So because if the people are buying chocolate, that means they are like to eat. So if they are buying chocolates, your new product will also be taken by this set of groups. So what is the information that you are going to use? So why you are going to use it? Because your main idea is actually to introduce a new chocolate product. That's why you are going to do it. So if that's the case, you need to keep in mind. So if you are going to new choco product, what type of things is interested? Okay. So when you're producing a new chocolate, you need to think of what's the filling that basically students are like to eat, whether it's nuts, caramel. So like such you need to come up with, and whether what type of chocolate, whether it's dark chocolate, milk chocolate, white chocolate. So like such you can take it. So whether there's a gender difference for chocolates. Okay. So like such you can come up with whether the the buying pattern of the chocolate is depend on the type of eater, if they are frequently eating or it's rarely eating, so like such, and also brand of the chocolate that eating is also important. So these are the main important things that you want to find out in order to decide on your new choco product. So if that's the case, let's discuss how we are going to do next. So this is your first outcome that you are going to achieve. Then next is the mode of data collection. So then you can decide depending on your available information for your list of groups. You can think of the best mechanism that you are going to do. Is it telephone, face to face? Like such you can come up with a good understanding. Maybe you can visit the chocolate shop and then do like a face to face interview. So like such you need to decide on that. So why we are deciding on that first is because it's affect here what's the type of questions you're asking. So if it's like face to face, you need to think about the time and how the questions are there. You can ask difficult questions as well because you are there to help them. And the next thing is the length of the questionnaire is also different. So if you are doing a telephone survey, so people don't like to talk a lot of things in the telephone. So you need to wrap out a few questions and ask them. So if you are sending mail and email, you can have a moderate type of question. So like such, the length of the questionnaire is differ depending on your mode of data collection. So the next thing is you need to develop the analysis plan. So you need to think of what are the important variables first that interest that you need to take care of it, and how these variables are related to each other and what you are going to do, how you are going to analyze it. So like such you need to come up with. So this part actually, the data analysis part, you will know from the next video. But anyway, so I'll just talk with, so once you identify your interested variables, so you can develop the analysis plan by considering the important variables. So we have identified actually the important variables which is related to our study. And actually the next step is actually to construct the question. So what you can do is, if you after identifying the variables first, you can convert that to set of questions. So rather than asking chocolate filling, you can ask what chocolate fillings do you like? What's the best kind of chocolate you like? So what is your gender? Do you eat a lot of chocolate? Can you rate the following brand according to your preference? So like such, you can ask the question in different ways depending on how you are going to analyze. Okay, so that's the main fact. So once you decide on the question, so what chocolate fillings do you like? So maybe you can ask them to fill out, or maybe you can give an option. So it's depending on how we are going to analyze it. So the analysis will work well if you give the options that are available to each questions as well. So definitely you can give the, rather than asking what's your gender, you can give gender, male and female. So they can select what's the best for you. So depending on your analysis plan, so let's say you are doing like, do you eat lot of chocolate? So maybe you can ask yes or no. So it will not give a good idea. So what you can do is you can write like, you can highly eating like such, you can like categorize into lot of things, then you can decide on their type of it. So depending on your analysis purpose, you need to think of what's the answers that you are going to give. So let's discuss these options under the structure and layout of the questionnaire. So once you decide on the questions using the important variable, you need to prepare the draft questionnaire. So the how you prepare the draft questionnaire can be discussed in detail. What is the desired formats that you have, how you can structure and lay out it, what's the question content, and how you can word it. So it's depending on these things. So let's discuss each one of in detail form. So as I said earlier, so there are desired format for each of the questions. The answer types. There are three main types. It can be open-ended. That means you are asking the question and you are not giving the options. The respondent is free to write whatever they feel. So they might be possible to write different things and it might be lengthy. So usually this is the choice you are giving to the respondent to express their opinion in a free manner. But it's difficult to analyze. Okay. So the next type is the close-ended. That is like multiple choice. So each question you give the options, all answer categories that the respondent might be come up with. So therefore, when you think that this is the good choice to do multiple choice, you need to give all options. Okay. So it's a better way that it's easy and students the people can choose the answers very easily. So if you give like options, what are the filling types, you can give nuts, caramel and all that things, and you can also say other. So then if somebody else is like other than the things that you have mentioned, they can specify what's the thing that they like. And the next is the scaling questions. That means as I discussed earlier, uh, how you can rate the brand that the chocolate brand according to your preference. So like such, you can give a scaling which to rate them 1 to 5 for each of the questions, and that means it is very easy. So let's say you are interested about getting um, in their opinion for different brands, so then you can figure out uh, what's the respondent mostly like. So like such, you can give a scale responses as well. So always when you're giving scale, it's better to give 1 to 5 only, rate up to 1 to 5. Okay. So these are the three main types that you are going to, that is interested. So once you decide on the each different question, what's the type, the next thing is, have you outlined the questionnaire? So you need to give the title for your project. Okay, when you what's the title that you are going, you need to come up with a nice title, and then you can give a introductory paragraph. I'm so and so doing this for this purpose, and I'm assuring the confidentiality of each and every respondent. Please uh, fill it, and like such you can give an introductory paragraph why you are doing it, who are doing it, like such you can give an introductory paragraph. And then you need to contain the, once you decide on the questions, you need to group them into different sections. Maybe you can group them according to their uh, demographic characteristics, according to their educational characteristics. depending on your type, you can divide the question into different groups so that the respondents can easily fill it in a natural manner. And you can use filter questions as well. So that means if you are not a frequent chocolate eater, you are not asking set of questions. So like such, you can do a filtering mechanism as well. So then put difficult question at the end, and then like such after that you can maybe put a general comment about the interesting topic that you have, and then you can end and thank them. So this is basically the structure of the questionnaire. So as I said, you can start with the title and give introduction and welcome and why you are doing it, and that's the title and introductory paragraph that you are going to do. So when you're discussing about the structure and layout, you need to order the questions in a nice manner. Okay. So how you order the question is will direct you to the high response rate, because you know if you're asking set of questions in not in a orderly manner, then they might not be happy about filling it. So it's usually better to ask general question first and specific question later, and so that will encourage people to continue the survey. Okay, so if you are doing like telephone or personal interview, it will help to build a rapport with the interviewer. So usually put the sensitive and difficult question at the end. So then after like reaching the end, they will just try to motivate to fill it to reach them the end. Okay, so that's a rule of thumb that you can use when you're designing the questionnaire. So for mail survey, you need to like include a front cover and a back cover. With the front cover means you can like nicely display and put like a letter, and you can send it them. So you can do it like Google. You can design a Google form and send back as well. And if you are doing like a personal interview questionnaire, then you need to prepare instruction manual as well. But in your case, it's not a matter because you are doing it for as a group. So the words that you use for question is very important. The choice of wording is critical. So you need to choose your wording well and use appropriate words for your selected response. Use simple words, relevant, and also neutral. So these are things that I need. So when you are discussing about the content, it should be relevant aspect. So let me discuss finally the things that you need to consider as our last slide. So when you are wording a questionnaire, the good question should follow these way. So you need when you read it, it should be easy to understand. Okay, and the questions, please make it very short rather than using a long sentence. It may confuse the reader. Okay, and use always check for spelling and grammar, and also make sure that you use your appropriate language. What do you mean by language? So if your audience is not good at English, better use Sinhala. You decide a Sinhala questionnaire or maybe Tamil questionnaire. So it depending on your target population. If they are not comfortable in using English, better you follow in Sinhala and Tamil, and then you can convert them back to your English when you are analyzing it. And never use complex word and technical terms. Always try to use a simple language. And also for each question, when you are using, if you are using close-ended, which means you are giving the options, then when you choose, you need to make sure that every individual has a choice to make. So if you think that there's no choice, you can leave like don't know, not applicable, or other for the people who don't have who are not certain about a clear answer to select. So this is a very important aspect.